and welcome back to Urban Yoke Homestead. Benvenuti, bentornati. As always, I'm super delighted to have you here. My name is Giulia, io mi chiamo Giulia, and in this video I would like to share a little bit about traveling with chronic pain. So for anyone who's new here, myself and my husband have recently moved to Italy from South Africa, and it's been quite the journey. But one of the reasons, or I guess the main reason that we moved, is for better healthcare for myself, to find a specialist that can assist with my particularly weird disease. It's called Syringomyelia, and it causes a lot of chronic pain amongst other issues. So I have also been traveling a bit lately, and that's why I wanted to talk a little bit about traveling with chronic pain and perhaps a few things that you could do when you are planning your next trip. So I came here on an airplane because that's the easiest way to get here from so far away. There are no direct flights from South Africa to Italy, so I had to do a stopover, and I did mine in France. Now, the airplane travel has always been a little bit of a painful thing for me. You know, just a skosh, and it's been quite a few years not traveling by plane and focusing more on my life with my husband. But when the time came, I was not nearly as prepared as I should have been. So I experienced quite a bit of pain. I did not have painkillers with me, and I was traveling alone with a fair amount of luggage, which made it extremely uncomfortable. By the time I reached Italy and my family had greeted me, I was, shaking, and I had tremors from the amount of pain that I was in, and I just burst into tears when I hugged my mom. It was such an emotional moment, also because of the emotional baggage that came with moving to another country. Even though I had been here before, it's still stressful to move in general, and moving countries, moving continents, moving hemispheres is quite the task. Yeah, I don't know how else to describe it other than that. It is extremely intense. But the travel itself, the first airplane ride was the longest one. It's about 10 hours, and it was very uncomfortable. I landed up just watching various series to help distract me because I didn't know what else to do. And so I started experiencing a lot of pain in my shoulders and then pain in my back, and I was feeling quite a lot of that pain in my joints. And I had a lot of joint pain. It was difficult to move properly. I landed up using my cane for most of the way, and I did not have priority boarding or assisted care for this period. I didn't think I would need it, but it turns out that I did. So my number one tip for anyone who has or deals with chronic pain is to get priority boarding if you're traveling by airplane, and if you have any other traveling sort of itinerary items, such as traveling by boat or traveling by train, I would definitely get assisted boarding where you can, so that you're not finding yourself standing in the queue or struggling to get to the next gate, the next terminal, the next platform, whatever it may be. So number one tip, definitely make sure that you have some kind of assisted boarding or anything of the sort, because that would have really really helped me a lot. And I didn't do it. I didn't think I needed it, but I actually did. Even though I'm fairly mobile, when it came to the stress of traveling, especially traveling on my own, I was not quite prepared for the amount of pain that the travel would have on me. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. It was one of the most painful traveling experiences I've had, and I have moved countries several times in my life. So I think I'm pretty aware of what it is like, but I'd always been a bit more capable, whereas this time, in combination with the emotional issues of moving, it was a bit too difficult for me. So that would be my number one tip for you guys. But then on a lighter note, I took two trips recently. The first one was to Florence, Italy, and you can learn more about that in my previous video, where I reunited with a friend after over 10 years. It was our like 10-year reunion. We hadn't seen each other, and we had actually met in Florence and then reunited in Florence. And Florence is a fair way away from here. So I went for my little travel. I had to take several trains to get to Florence, and it was amazing. The trip was quite wonderful, and it was a bit easier than going on the airplane for such a long travel. But again, I was alone, and it was a bit uncomfortable. I had quite a bit of back pain, and I should have definitely been better prepared when it came to changeover times, because I did miss one train and had to buy an extra ticket. And traveling down to Florence was an exciting and a little bit nerve-wracking, because I hadn't been there in 9 years and I wasn't sure what to expect, and seeing old faces, you know how it is. It's a little strange when you've moved on with your life and then you go back to something different, pre who you are now. I hadn't been there for so long, and I had lived there prior to diagnosis, so it was a different time for me. I'd only visited once after diagnosis, and it was just for a few days. I didn't really do very much while I was there. So this time I got to walk around and see people, and then obviously hang out with my awesome friend Katie. And just a quick little note there, Katie runs a awesome retreat program for people wanting to come to Italy. It's called Truly Italy, and I will leave links down in the description for you, because these retreats are really fantastic for anyone who wants to experience what it's like staying in a villa, getting to know Florence, getting to know Tuscany, and in the future even other regions of Italy, and really understanding the authentic side of Italy and not just the tourism of it all. So yes, we'll be collaborating on these projects, which is very, very exciting for me, and obviously there will be more news to come as we develop this idea a little bit more, but it's not quite ready to launch yet, and when it is, I'll let you know about it. But that brings me to my second tip, number 2. That would be to definitely be prepared for these changeover times. So like I said, I wasn't as prepared as I should have been, and I missed my train, and I had to buy another train ticket, which cost me around 60 euros or so extra for that trip, which is quite a bit of money. So make sure that you have sufficient changeover times, particularly if you're traveling in Italy where trains tend to be late. Lots of things tend to be late. So you want to make sure that you can, make up for that late arrival time. If you are traveling by airplane, I would absolutely suggest that you use at least 3 hours of changeover as a bare minimum. Remember, when you're going to an international airport and doing a changeover, those gates can be quite far apart. In this most recent travel coming to Italy, I had to walk about 30 minutes to get to the next gate, and that is not unheard of. In some cases, it can even take up to an hour, so definitely be prepared for those changeover times. If you're traveling by train, 30 minutes to an hour, probably even an hour, and having those changeover times will also assist you in reorientating yourself, relaxing, taking a moment to relax and rest before continuing your travel, which is really important for stress. And if you can limit the amount of stress that you have, you can also limit the amount of pain that you'll be experiencing, which I think is quite important. And it's something that I should have done, because it ended up stressing me out on my way down to Florence, and I felt quite uncomfortable when I arrived there. I wasn't in nearly as much pain as I was with the air travel, but I was still quite uncomfortable, and by the time I traveled back home, my feet, my legs, my back, and everything was very painful, and I just was not quite feeling myself, and I couldn't really feel comfortable trying to complete all the tasks that I wanted to do. And Luckily, I work from home, so I didn't have to travel or commute every day to an office, which makes a huge difference in being able to get my work done. But on the other side, it's awfully tempting to go and lie down when you have that back pain, and it's unnecessary. So the chronic pain was exacerbated, but luckily the adrenaline of the excitement being there and seeing my friend really helped to mitigate that. But I did have to take a few painkillers when I got there. So definitely mitigate your stress, and make sure that you are able to use facilities where possible. You don't want to have the stress of, oh dear, and now I need to go to the bathroom, I'm stuck on a train, what do I do? I'm by myself, do I leave my belongings, don't I? I know that Europe is mostly safe and you can generally do that, but if you come from a country where that is just not the case, you will feel extremely stressed about leaving your belongings on their own, and justifiably so. So make sure that your changeover time is sufficient and one that's not going to make you feel stress in any kind of way. It's a great way to mitigate that pain. Hello, Sadie. This is Sadie. She doesn't show herself on camera very often. Hey, hello. Yeah. Sadie's really come out of her shell. She's taken the longest to come out of her shell. She's so scared of everything. Aren't you, my tater? But if you want to know more about the cats, I'll leave links down in the description as well where you can meet the cats, and I will do another update with them soon enough, but for the time being they're doing just fine. Anyway, so moving on. So the second trip I took was up to Zurich to visit family of mine. I passed through Chiasso. I actually went for a job interview there, so I had to do a long stop in Chiasso and then continue on to Zurich, and that was a very long travel. I left the house at 6:20 in the morning, and I eventually arrived in Zurich at 4:30. So yeah, it was quite intense. And the biggest mistake that I made there was not taking food and drink with me initially, and I ended up having to buy it in Chiasso at a little kiosk, which was a little more costly than it probably would have been if I had just prepared something at home. But I also wouldn't have felt so drained and tired if I had actually just brought some water or even something like iced tea with me, so that I could keep my hydration up, and not feel so tired and thirsty by the end of the travel. And then I would have also packaged some sandwiches or other kinds of snacks that would have been easy to eat in the train and help keep my blood pressure up, help keep my blood sugar up, because that would have also assisted in the chronic pain. So I didn't do this, and I also suffer with a little bit of motion sickness. So when I didn't do this the first time, I didn't feel as good as I should have, and my stomach was uncomfortable, it was in pain, I was not correctly hydrated, and this increased the chronic pain that I felt. And with the seats not being exactly ideal, it can further exacerbate back pain, and that's essentially what happened. My hips and my lower back were extremely sore by the time I got to Switzerland, but again, a lot of the adrenaline and excitement, having not been there for so many years, really helped with all of that, and I was able to rest because I was with family, so there was no expectations. But nonetheless, were still activities to be done, and I will say that it was a little bit difficult to keep up all of the time. So that would definitely be my number 3 tip, is have food and water with you. Make sure that you have things to snack on. Make sure that you have a little extra cash in case your card doesn't work. And just make sure that you have a reusable water bottle with you, so at the very least you can fill up on water and stay hydrated. And by staying hydrated and keeping your blood sugar and your blood pressure up, you will also be able to mitigate the pain by being able to deal with it better. You're able to sustain the pain a lot better if that is the case, right? So keep those things in mind. Then that brings me to my 4th tip, and my 4th tip would definitely be painkillers and nausea tablets. So, Sadie, come. So the painkillers and nausea tablets. And that was something I forgot yet again. I spent many years taking painkillers, and so I have a bit of an aversion towards them. And anyone who has been chronically ill for a very long time, or even, a short period, like a year to 2 years, understands the effects of having to take painkillers consistently. And sometimes you just feel like you can manage without it. But I'll be honest, I should have had some with me, at the very least, a muscle relaxant that would have helped with the tension in my back and mitigate the pain. I did, however, have nausea pills with me for motion sickness, so I took those, and that helped a lot with, obviously, the nausea and helped mitigate a little bit of stomach pain. And so that would be definitely tip number 4, is actually have painkillers, have muscle relaxants with you that won't overtly affect the way that you function. Just something that can take the edge off so that you're able to get through the travel and get to your destination where you can rest and let the muscles do their thing. And last but not least, tip number 5, that would be prepared. Something I always do, and it's in case my cell phone dies, in case the cell phone breaks, or I'm unable to contact people that I know. I let everyone know what my travel is and when I'm going to arrive in the new place, and as soon as that, I'll be able to let them know what is happening. I will look at my itinerary, study the trains, study the airplanes that I'll be taking, write down their numbers, write down the times in order that it's going to be happening. So if I do need to ask someone about it, they're able to assist greatly in getting me to the right place, or at least if I know where the train or the plane is flying to, then I'm able to follow which gate, which platform to go to. So write down your itinerary, write down your wait times, write down everything that you can about the route, and this will help mitigate stress and in the end help you manage your chronic pain a lot better, because you won't be as stressed. And that is really what traveling with chronic pain is all about. It's mitigating the stress that comes with traveling. So being prepared always helps with that. All right, so those are my 5 tips on traveling with chronic pain. I hope this helped some of you. And for those of you who are interested a little bit in my travel, it was wonderful. I had a great time in Florence. You can see more about that in the previous video. But while I was traveling up to Switzerland, I got to see a lot of the countryside. It was very beautiful. I absolutely adored it. And I also got to see Old Town again. And yeah, Zurich has changed a little bit in the past 9 years, but it was absolutely beautiful, and I'm glad that I got to go up, even though I found it quite stressful and painful. By the time I got back, it was uncomfortable. I was uncomfortable, and I'm still kind of uncomfortable, but I've started yoga again, and that should help with the pain as well. Keeping stressed, keeping stretched, keeping the muscles, nice and smooth and malleable, so that they don't tense up as much, and concentrating on your breathing, making sure that you're breathing. Anyhow, so that was the trip, and one of the days we went mushroom hunting. We were absolutely flabbergasted with the amount of mushrooms that we saw. It was incredible. We were walking through the forest, and at every corner, every turn, there was some or other mushroom. I was absolutely delighted to see all of them. So what I will do is leave a little reel of the mushroom photos at the end of this video for those of you who would like to see what they are. And if you know any of these mushrooms or would care to take a guess at what they are, leave them down in the comments. Also, if you have a few tips for anyone traveling with chronic pain, leave that down in the comments too. We are all here to share and learn and help each other through this process of living and suffering with chronic pain, or suffering from chronic pain, should I say. And yeah, as always, if you have any questions, please let me know down in the comments as well. I'll leave links to other videos down below so that you can see more about what is happening, meet the cats, learn a little bit about Florence. And as always, I will see you in the next video. Ciao, alla prossima!